When I run my workshops in the UK, I often make this the first one for my Christmas decoration workshops. It's a circular round, like a bauble, Christmas bauble. So I'm using 1.6mm aluminium wire to make the framework, as it's nice and soft. And you just need something round to wrap it in shape, make that shape. So you can choose the size of the bauble that you're making. So just wrap it around something until the wire overlaps, and then once you've got your size and your circle, you want to create a stem with one of the wires, so a longer stem. So just bend that up to a right angle away from your circle and just straighten it, because that's going to be the suspension area. And then you just need enough to make a little hook link. So I'm just trimming it and then creating a hook with my round nose pliers, and then I can just pull the stem into, so the top of the circle, into that hook, and then squidge and squeeze and flatten and secure that hook around the top. So there's my circle ready. And if you need to, if it's misshaped as you've made it, just put it back onto your mandrel and reshape it. But that's how you make the circles. And this also applies in jewelry. So if you wanted to make a circular pendant, you just make this on a smaller scale. So I need to work harden the outer frame. So I'm using my hammer, my whammer hammer, and the steel block to work harden. So it'll stroke hammer, flatten and toughen, and also give a bit of texture, because it is a Christmas decoration after all. So don't worry about leaving texture marks. That you want all that. You can actually use your dapping head of your whammer and create a bit more texture to give it a bit more of a twinkle or sparkle. So now my frame is work hardened. I'm going to show you how I do a sort of quite an instant, what I call a lacy wire decoration. And it's very free form. For this, I'm using 0.8mm 20 gauge. This is silver plated copper wire, and I'm using a nice long length. And because it's so long, I'm going to secure the middle of it to any part of the frame. So I'm just going to the side of the frame, and I'm going to work with one side of the wire first and then the other side. So here we go. I'm first of all attaching it with a double wrap, and then I'm just going to put a little sort of half round loop there. And now I'm just going to go off-piste, as I call it. I'm just free forming, letting the wire flow where it wants to go in these loopy circles or loopy ovals. And really don't think too hard. Often when you think too hard when you're doing this, it tends to, kink and then get bent, because you want it to look as flowing as possible. So just let the wire go where it wants to land, and obviously you have to keep connecting it to the frame as you go, otherwise it'll be too loose. So as you can see, I'm just going round and round. And if you want to make it more circular and less oval, you just place a round mandrel within your wire to get that, and then link it into another piece. As you start forming these areas, you can push the wire through the loops and connect it all so that it holds together as a solid, as a mass. And once you've run out of one of the wires, connect that onto the side of the frame at some point. Always sort of make sure that's really well squidged down, and then go to the other end of the wire to continue doing this free form looping, or lacy work as I call it. So wherever you can, link back in and just try and keep this wire as smooth as you can without kinking it. You can sort of pull it through your fingers to do that, and then use a mandrel perhaps to get it rounder. And that's, you can go in a sort of S shape, you can go backwards, you can go forwards, you can it's a great way of filling a large space when making a framework. And it's got this lovely illusion of free flowing wire, and you can do this with colored wires too. I'm using silver because it's a Christmas decoration, and I like using metallics, but you can get wires in every color under the sun. And if you don't happen to have 0.8 to do this, you can use doubled up, a doubled piece of wire, which is 0.4. So you double 0.4 and do exactly the same thing, and it's even got a more delicate look for a smaller area. So as you can see, I've used up that one length, and it's only got me halfway. And the next area, I thought I'll do another colored wire maybe to show you. So that's halfway through. Now I've got some gilt wires, some gold colored wire, and just show you how you can connect, put 2 different colors or 3 different colors together and make something quite unique. So again, it's creating these flowing lines, and it gives this sort of filler to your piece and makes it look, once you're hanging it on a tree as well, it'll pick up on the light and it will look really nice. So I'm going to just let you watch me do this, because if I edit it, you'll think I don't know, I've thrown one away and shown you the one that looks better. But literally it is scribbling, and it looks a mess while you're doing it, and you think, oh my God, this is never going to work. It's just messy and it's all over the place. But as a whole, you'll see, if you persevere and you just make sure you haven't got those kinks coming into your wire. So if you feel a kink coming in, pull it through your fingers. But honestly, as a whole, it looks great. And especially on a tree. I mean, you're not going to, it's not a pendant, is it? It's not something you're wearing where someone's going to look at it closely. It's got this metallic illusion. So if the wire finishes halfway through like that, you can always make a little bit of a spiral, which can be flattened. So now I'm getting on to the second length, the other side of the wire. I'm just going to feed it through some of the gaps. And again, just keep connecting one half to the other half so that it doesn't sort of open up. And that's all you're doing. So you sort of go into a mindfulness zone doing this. Just keep saying to yourself, I've got to let the wire, go its own way rather than force it to go in a direction that you choose. It wants to flow, I promise you. The wire wants to flow, and it likes going round into circular shapes rather than angles. And there we have it. We've come to the end area, so I'm just going to bring that into a point where I can connect it and bring it through and attach it and secure it so it's not sitting out. So once you've filled in whatever, it can be any shape, it doesn't have to be a circular bauble, but it does look good on a circle. Just now you want to compact it together, so you don't hammer it hard. You use the nylon head on your steel block, hammer it down, and what that will do is compact it and harden it as a mass. So it makes it stay together and it flattens it down. Now you can put a bead, wire a bead into the center. You could have wired beads into it as you did the flowing wires as well. I have done some where you add a bead and then you make the circle around it. But I thought I'd just show it to you as a technique first. So I'm going to add a bead just to give it a bit more sparkle, as it's a Christmas thing. So I'm using 0.8 millimeter, 20 gauge, and I'm just connecting it because I've got so many areas I can connect it in. I'm doing one side on one end, the other side on the other end, and really there's no technique to this, it's just you're sort of like sewing it in. But I've left a lot of wire because with this excess wire I can still make loops to connect into the rest of it, or I can use some of the wire to frame the bead, and that makes it stand out a bit more because it's a clear spiral. So this end I'm just going to make it sort of disappear, make a loop with it, disappear within the rest of the loops. But the other end, my long end, I'm going to use that to sort of make a little bit of a fake setting. So I'm just going to keep pushing it around the bead, and it will make that crystal stand out a bit more and sparkle a bit more. And so then when I get to the end of it, I'm going to make a little bit of an open spiral, which I can flatten on top of the bead. So you can see I've got a little bit of a spiral there, and as I come in, I'm going to push it over onto the top surface of the bead, and that sort of gives it a little bit more detail. It makes it pop out a bit more. So there we have it, a bit more sparkle. That's how you can do that. But as I say, you can put many more beads you want. Now the top of the pendant, you can add another bead. So let's have a look. We could add this one. Not so keen on that. Let me see if I've got a silver one that looks better. I think these have a bit more sparkle to them. I'll use this big silver bead and then create a top link. So I've got so much wire there, I'm just going to roll it down instead of cutting it off, because then I can leave two. So if I snip off the ones I don't use, I can use as jump rings, but I'm just going to leave two rings left there. That's for my suspension link, and I'm going to open those up, spread them out a bit, and that just gives a different feel to the top of the pendant. But obviously you can just do a wrap loop, you can just do one link. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm just trying to show you as many different things as possible to give you ideas. And then I need a jump ring to go through those two top links, and then obviously I'll need another jump ring for my ribbon. So this top jump ring has to be wide enough, and big enough rather, to go through the two. It just gives a nice sort of sense of proportion to the top of your piece where you suspend it. And then one more jump ring, and then your ribbon. And that's it. Simple as that. So I hope you have fun making these baubles in different coloured wires. And here's a few I've made earlier. And also you could use different shapes. You see here I've got a heart and a pendant. Here I'm using coloured wire in the tree shapes. So just have fun playing around with this lacy wire filler idea. Thank you so much for watching.